spill at turn 9 in FP2, and then earlier on today, mechanical failure for Andre Iannone. There were subsequent crashes for Michael van der Mark and Tommy Bridewell, but thankfully no bad news for any of the riders involved earlier on today, aside from that delay with a red flag. So everyone's up and running ahead of this Superpole session here this morning. We head into the pit box to catch up with our championship leader, Nicolo Bulliger, and it has been 2 hat-tricks apiece this season for our series leader. Bulliger unbeaten in Phillip Island and Cremona, Toprak with a maximum score in Portimao and Misano last time out, and Toprak's gains were that much more significant at the Emilia-Romagna round because of Bulliger's misfortune, that first turn crash in the Superpole race, leaving race 2 just a question of damage limitation because he had to come through from 10th on the grid to 2nd to maintain his series lead. So Bulliger looking to get back to winning ways this weekend, or he's at real risk of slipping behind Toprak for the first time. Yeah,
3 non-scores this season for Bulliger. None of them really his fault, but for him it's brought Toprak back into title contention, because up until this moment Toprak was up against it because you knew Bulliger was going to continue to have those podiums, continue to win races. This has now left it pretty much going into the second half of the year. It's just up to both riders to do the best job they can, and whoever does the best job will win the championship.
Yeah, I don't think there's too much doubt that the visit to Misano 4 weeks ago was a game changer for Toprak Razgatlioglu's championship challenge, because after conceding 42 points in Phillip Island, it has been painstaking progress for him. Pulled back 13 in Portimao because Bulliger registered 3 second places, 8 points gained in Assen, 3 points only in Most. But that hat-trick at the Emilia-Romagna round has made up 22 points for him. That is the biggest swing this season in favour of Razgatlioglu. And here at Donington Park, perhaps even more than anywhere else, he'll expect to pick up just as he left off last time out.
Yeah, exactly. And what's interesting is there was a good story on speedweek.com from Evo about the BMW. It got checked out for its frame. There was question marks from other manufacturers that maybe BMW had been making some changes to their frame to revert back closer to what they were running last year. The FIM did their checks. Toprak's performance is also checked out on that, because we saw yesterday that he was struggling, but this morning they've found their progress. They've made a good step forward. But definitely worth having a read of that article just to see the doubts that are creeping in from some other manufacturers trying to put the pressure on BMW.
Yes, I think it's quite clear that it's been a step backwards this season. It's good news from a neutral's perspective, because Toprak was content to run away with things until his late season injury. But this season, Nicolo Bulliger making a step forward. We saw that at the last 2 rounds of last year, and both of them have widened that margin to the rest of the field. So up until that incident last time out for Bulliger, as I said, it was only possible for Toprak to pull a few points back here and there, with both of them finishing either first or second generally in each race.
And what's been interesting this weekend, you can see there the fuel flow adjustments. This is the 3rd time this season where BMW and Ducati have been pinged by that. It is now starting to have an impact. They lose out in those top-end revs. It's changed the shift pattern a little bit for BMW here this weekend. When you lose the top end of your fuel flow pressure, it means that you use a lot of that whenever you're revving to your highest speed. So for BMW here this weekend, it has made a little bit of an impact as well.
Danilo Petrucci currently 3rd in the World Championship, matching the target he set for himself in pre-season, and real consistency for him, points in all but 1 race, top 6 in all but 3, and the momentum certainly with the Barney man, who's beaten Alvaro Bautista in 5 of the last 6 races across the weekends in Most and Misano.
Yeah, and for Petrucci, it's been a really good season. He's been very consistent, very well deserved to sit 3rd in the championship standings. He's trying to do all he can to give himself options for next year. You'd imagine he stays at Barney, but he will be on the shopping list for other manufacturers as well.
Yes, something of a veteran at 34 years of age, but still, the 2nd factory seat for Aruba, currently held by Alvaro Bautista, age 40. So there's still time for Danilo Petrucci. As we see into Alex Lowes, and Lowes, by virtue of his performances this weekend so far, seems to have made another step forward with the Look gradually more competitive this season as he returned to fitness following his Phillip Island crash at the start of the year. And although the weekend in Misano finished with a crash, 7th in the Superpole race at the Emilia-Romagna round, his best result in 2025 so far.
Yeah, and for Johnny, really important this weekend to come away with something, and the Superpole session dictates everything. And we'll wait and see if he's able to find that step that he needs. This morning he was a lot more competitive in terms of being up inside the top 10, but he needs to qualify well, and that means being able just to have that one lap that puts it all together.
And we'll certainly be spying him as well. That bright yellow helmet, we're not going to be missing that one.
It's fantastic. A great tribute there to Joey Dunlop, and obviously recently Johnny was able to go out and ride some of the Ray racing bikes that Joey rode as well, so he's paying tribute there to, in fairness to Johnny, the biggest legend that Northern Ireland's had in two wheels.
Less than 30 seconds now until pit lane opens. This is Alvaro Bautista. 10 podiums to his name. That is 4 more than bronze medal rival Petrucci. But crucially, Bautista's had 4 non-scores, so he has work to do to even retain the world number 3 status he held last year. Race 2 of the Emilia-Romagna round, Bautista lost a 5-place head start, being passed by teammate Bulliger in just the opening 3 laps alone. So he is still losing a few tenths of a second per lap in race conditions compared to the top 2.
And that's the big thing for Bautista. Obviously, he's talked a lot about the weight being the factor for him, but for Ducati, that's why they know that they need to look elsewhere for next year as well. They're planning for the future, and Aaron Canet could well be the rider that they're looking to put onto that bike. Canet's on the shopping list for BMW as well, but if you've got the option to be on the Ducati, he gives them the transition that they need. They want to have a young rider from Moto2 or Supersport that they're able to progress like they did with Bulliger, and it would be very exciting to see Canet jump onto that seat.
Previous poles here at Donington Park. Toprak Razgatlioglu, we ride on board with our pole sitter at the 2024 UK round by a margin of over half a second ahead of Nicolo Bulliger. Was Toprak's first pole at Donington Park, ending a run of 3 in a row at this venue for Jonathan Ray. The circuit record is held at 7 by Tom Sykes, ahead of Carl Fogarty on 4. In terms of manufacturers, Ducati hold the record here with 15.
This is really important as well. We see Johnny leaving the pits just behind Sam Lowes on the number 14 bike. Bulliger and Jari Montella there. They're good riders for Ray to be able to try and follow during the course of his first Superpole lap. Sam Lowes on the 14 bike, home round for him, second fastest in the weekend so far. Always a Superpole specialist, and definitely we need to keep an eye on the 14.
Yes, Sam Lowes announced last week that he will remain in World SBK for at least the next 2 seasons. He put pen to paper on a deal covering 2026 and 27. In his second campaign at present, Lowes has only been out of the points twice, has had his first pole and first podium, and extending his relationship with the Elfmark VDS team, who he joined, of course, in Moto2 in 2020. Renewals as well for Jari Montella, who will remain with Barney Ducati for 2026, his 4th season with the team, including his 2 years in Supersport. Finished bronze medalist in 2024, and a well-deserved renewal in a rookie campaign in World SBK that so far yielded 7 top 10 finishes. And a renewal as well for Garrett Gerloff, who will continue on Kawasaki machinery for next year.
Yeah, and for Gerloff, a bit of a surprise to get it done this early, but good from Kawasaki and from Pachetti to be able to have that signed up. Also, there's always those question marks. Will they run a second bike next year? At least now they've got that little bit of security about it.
All change at MIE Honda this weekend. Taz McKenzie departing the team after 2.5 seasons that yielded a race win in Supersport before his rookie World SBK campaign last year. His place is taken by Tito Rabat, who was dropped by Moto2 in favour of Michael Ruben Rinaldi. Meanwhile, Ivo Lopez takes the 2nd seat with Zakwan Zaidi on domestic duty in the Asia Road Racing Championship.
We're about to see the fastest lap of the weekend here. Toprak on his first lap of the session, and should be right down into the low 25s. 25.3 is the fastest time we've had so far.
Toprak Razgatlioglu beaten 4 times to 2 in Superpole by title rival Nicolo Bulliger this season. So it is Bulliger who's had the upper hand for single lap pace this season so far. Razgatlioglu, pole sitter at the 2025 Portuguese and Czech rounds, goes provisional pole with a 1 minute 25.193 on his first flying lap.
Bulliger and Alex Lowes though on fast laps at the 2/3 point. And keep an eye out for Lowes on the 22, should be down into maybe the 24s on his first flying lap.
Catching up here with Alex Lowes, 2nd row starter at each of the last 2 rounds, but he is starting to find some consistency with the Bimotor, and he will be able to give it something a little bit extra here at the UK round. We ride on board as he exits the final turn. Toprak Razgatlioglu's target time is beaten by 0.08 of a second by Alex Lowes for provisional pole at his home round. We watch to see what Nicolo Bulliger can do in the final sector. Sam Lowes and Jonathan Ray Ray as well, making their way through. Here's the group. Sam Lowes exits the final.
The Superpole session, but particularly when you're up against the likes of Toprak and Bulaga.
Short lap here at Donington Park, both in terms of length at 4 kilometres and indeed times. You know, 1 minute 25. The lap record, as we said at the top of the show, 1 minute 24.629 set for pole by Toprak Razgatlioglu last year. Here's a rundown of the standings then. Alex Lowes leading Toprak Razgatlioglu, Nicolo Bulaga 3/10 back, and then close from there on down. Petrucci and Montella, the two Barney bikes on the second row of the grid. So 3 Ducatis up in those top 5 positions. Jonathan Ray then next best in 6th place. That's better than anything we've really seen from him in Superpole in dry conditions on a Yamaha.
Yeah, I mentioned as he left the pits to have Bulaga and Lowes to be able to be in that group with. That does allow you to just have the yardstick in front, the carrot in front of you to try and give yourself that opportunity. So good lap from Ray. Gives him that opportunity now on his next run to be able to find a small improvement and just keep yourself in those front couple of rows of the grid.
Well, potentially a shock on the cards here at Donington Park with Alex Lowes leading the way. It has been Nicolo Bulaga and Toprak Razgatlioglu who have generally dominated in Superpole this season so far. Into the pit box to see Jonathan Ray, 3 times Donington Park pole sitter, of course, 7 front row starts at this venue. Has never qualified outside of the top 3 here between 2017 and 2023. He was 8th on the grid here last year on the Yamaha, and we remember it was like the parting of the waves, how the ground opened up for him in the early stages for him to fight through and take a famous first podium, and so far only podium on the Yamaha.
Yeah, and to be able to challenge for another one, you have to qualify well. He's given himself the chance in that first lap. Now he needs to go again. You can see here for the Honda riders, just waiting in pit lane for the right
favourite Toprak Razgatlioglu making his way down to the pit exits, and at the end of the week cross straight, 0.08 of a second to find compared to Alex Lowe's, and potentially more. We anticipate that benchmark to be lowered further still.
And it could well be lowered on this lap. You can see the timing tower on the left-hand side of the screen. Red sectors for the likes of Sam Lowe's in P7. That means that he's on course to move to the fastest time. We'll see what he can do when he comes through the next sector point, but a really good first sector for this rider.
Sam Lowe's 6th in the World Championship, but 3rd in the Superpole award. Other than the Superpole in Australia, he's scored in that metric at every other opportunity. 2 front row starts, his best since he was 4th on the grid in Misano last time out, and certainly one to watch for the battle for the top 3. Remember, 4th on the grid, his best in 2024. That was at Assen and here at Donington Park. He took pole on his return to Assen in April. Can he do the same again this morning? Sam Lowe's with every opportunity. He is up after 3 completed sectors.
Lost a bit of time through the S's. You can see he had to clatter across there. A bit of a slide on the exit into the Melbourne loop. Goes in as hot as you can. The loop is always a challenging section of the track for everyone. You always feel you can be deeper. You can see Sam there just runs in way too hot into that last corner, collects it, gives himself a chance to be able to set another lap, but just shows that you're right on that limit.
Short enough lap to get a second lap time out of the Q tyre even here at Donington Park, but that lap in the late 1 minute 25s.
What's interesting is pretty much matches his time for the first stint, even with those mistakes at turn 11 and 12.
Andrea Locatelli up to P4, important that lap from him, still chasing his first front row start since the 2023 Portuguese round. Portimao again his best this season so far with P4. He's been an average 8th on the grid, so that's good as things stand. Watch out for Nicolo Bulliger, sector 3 for him, and he's 0.3 of a second up after the first 2. Bulliger, our latest pole sitter, remember, topped the timesheets at the Emilia-Romagna round by 0.2 of a second. So even there in Misano, where he suffered 3 race defeats to Razgatlioglu, he was the man to beat in Superpole, and you would suggest coming into this round is again this morning. He is 1/4 of a second up after 3 completed sectors. Got to safely negotiate this potential banana skin at Goddard's. The final turn, 2.5 minutes to go. Second stint about to get underway with the first flying lap for Nicolo Bulliger, and it is provisional pole. The first rider into the 1 minute 24s in Superpole. A 1:24.946, 0.2 of a second faster than Lowe's and Razgatlioglu.
Let's see what Toprak does though. Halfway around the lap, he's only down by 0.06 of a second. Bulliger lost time in sector 3 compared to Alex Lowe's fastest time and Toprak's time the previous lap as well.
Yes, Alex Lowe's mixing it with the big 2 and the big gaps we've generally had behind them in the pecking order. Sam Lowe's will cross the line here. That's enough for P4. He might feel that the best opportunity at his fastest lap has gone away from him there on his penultimate flying lap. We'll see if he tries to extend this stint a little bit further, but 0.4 down on Nicolo Bulliger's fastest time. Here comes Toprak. Razgatlioglu exiting the final turn. He was up after sector 3, he's up after sector 4 by a tenth of a second. It's a 1 minute 24.827 for Razgatlioglu for provisional pole by a tenth over Nicolo Bulliga.
Yeah, good lap there from Toprak. Bulliga on his next lap down by a tenth of a second at the halfway stage. He was really strong in that second sector on his fastest lap. Lost time in the second half of the lap, so we'll see if he's able to keep enough life in the tyre for maybe one last lap at the end of the session.
Razgatlioglu and Bulliga first and second in 4 of the 6 Superpole sessions this season so far, and it looks as though they will finish the same again here, because the riders that have gone on for a third lap have so far been unable to improve, including Bulliga, who we saw pull up at the side of the circuit there.
What we need to see is Alex Lowe's now through the first sector. He's right there, but he's got Jonathan Ray behind him, and Ray's only 0.04 of a second off through sector 1. We'll see what the 22 and 65 are able to do as they complete the lap.
Alex Lowe still on for a personal best after sector 2, so is Jonathan Ray, but Lowe's not making an impression on that gap to Razgatlioglu and Bulliga. Here comes Alvaro Bautista. He's getting dropped gradually further down the order. It's only 9th position. Way now through the final turn, the checkered flag about to fall, and it will be Alex Lowe who crosses the line first. He's already in 3rd position. New personal best from him, new personal best from Jonathan Ray as well. It's P4, and it might not sound much for a 6-time world champion, but that's a great result for him on the Yamaha.
Yeah, and you can see the smiles there from his crew as well. A right smile from Yuri, his crew chief, but for Ray, really important to be able to get that lap time in, and qualifies up there. He's been able to follow the right riders at the right times during this session, and that's how he's been able to put that time in, but that is critical for Ray to be able to do that.
Yes, ahead of Sam Lowe's, ahead of Andrea Locatelli on the second row of the grid, and while all of that was happening, got to give a shout to Ryan Vickers, P7. That is an incredible result, and to be fair to Vickers, he has been showing that kind of position and that kind of pace throughout free practice as well. That bodes very well for the rest of his weekend.
Yeah, he was 7th fastest and 8th fastest yesterday, 5th fastest in this morning session, so Vickers has been able to put in the lap times that he needs to do.
Only a 4th defeat of this season then for Nicolo Bulliga, who has had 3 poles to his name. A 4th defeat, a 3rd to Toprak Razgatlioglu, one of course to Sam Lowe's, but Nicolo Bulliga still hasn't qualified outside of the top 2 in 2025, extends his run of 7 consecutive front row starts. It's P2 for him this morning, and your top 2 in the championship are in the top 2 places, ready to give us a scrap in race 1 this afternoon.
Yeah, and what's interesting as well, as we spoke during the free practice sessions about how strong the Ducatis look, so many Ducatis up inside the top 10. We've got 4 different manufacturers in the top 4 positions. The Superpole session is about being able to hook up that lap, find the right person to work with, and be able to set the lap time when it matters. And we've got BMW, Ducati, Bimota and Yamaha up in the top 4.
And we could be in for something slightly different here to what we saw certainly in Misano last time out. You think about the big gap that there was behind the top 2 at the Emilia-Romagna round. It was half a second behind them to 3rd place in Superpole. Here we've got Alex Lowe, who's been fastest in 2 of the 3 free practice sessions, who is within a tenth of a second of Nicolo Bulliga on the front row of the grid. Lowe's in fine fettle ahead of race 1.
And more importantly than anything else,